Hi, guys. This is Dr. Ann-Louise Lockhart with A New Day Pediatric Psychology. So we're going to give you guys a few seconds to log on, make sure we got everybody on here. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. We had a little disaster on Tuesday when I was live with Vanessa from New Jersey. And it was like the sound wasn't coming in, and I was like, I don't know, and I called my assistant, and she's like, restart your phone, and then it worked, and then we were good. So, yeah. So glad you guys could join us. I'm going to wait a few seconds, and then we can get started. Okay, the only thing about having it sideways is that I can't see the comments. I'll just have to do this and look. Okay. There you go. All right, everyone. My name is Dr. Ann-Louise Lockhart. I'm from A New Day Pediatric Psychology in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm joined by the lovely Ashani from Honolulu, Hawaii. And we are going to be talking about topics all related to domestic violence as well as being set free. So Sade is a breakthrough coach for women with father wounds, and she wrote a book, In Search of My Father. And she did that after doing 5 years of research of the impact that fathers have on their daughters and the choices that women make when they are wounded by that relationship with their father. So I'm very, very happy to be speaking with you about this very important topic because I think not enough is spoken about it. And I think we go through phases of talking about domestic violence and abusive relationships and how we deserve more, and then we don't. Right. So I think it's really a really important topic. So as you guys have questions, we'll make sure that we address those. But we want to just go ahead and get started and be able to have a good discussion about this stuff. I'm very excited.
Me too.
Yes.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And I can't wait to share what I know in my own story, breaking up some of that stigma. I have been in a relationship that involved domestic violence, and I'm very happy to be on the other side to get to talk to women about how to get free and stay that way.
Yes, definitely. That's so important because it's not just a physical thing. It's also mental as well, because you can't physically leave until you mentally have made that decision. So, yes. So let's start talking about why this topic about, you talked about not kind of falling in love with potential. How does that even relate to Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is something that we're really highlighting tonight? So how's that even connected?
Sure. So stop falling in love with potential comes into play with domestic violence when we consider the intersection that women often find themselves at when they are thinking, I can help him outgrow this. Maybe it was something that I did. If I can just stop or start doing X, Y, and Z, he will not become that angry with me, those kinds of things. So we are projecting an identity out onto him that involves him becoming better with our help, with our actions, when the reality is healthy relationships rely on two people who are each committed to their own growth, their own health, without the healing, teaching, coaching, help of the other person. We can support each other, but releasing the idea that your behavior made him become violent with you is really that difference maker. I hear women say that all the time. Or when we're in the context of domestic violence, they shift the responsibility onto themselves. That I can help him stop hurting me. We have to release that equivalence. It doesn't exist.
Well, and I think the problem is that many women feel like, well, he's a diamond in the rough and everybody deserves a chance and I have to have patience and grace and, I can make him better because he's also hurting as well too.
Right.
So,
So that's his work to do.
Right. Not ours, right?
Right. Addressing his brokenness and his childhood pain and all of those things. If you can articulate that someone is so broken that they need your help, then that's when we can release the ego. It doesn't, I'm not qualified to do this work.
Right.
I can't help my partner work through his childhood pain if it is bubbling up to the surface to the point of him abusing me. I'm unqualified to help him with that.
Right. So, Sade, you did 5 years of research interviewing women across the lifespan.
Yes.
What was your research? What did you do? What did you ask? And what did it reveal for you?
I asked 200 women, ages 18 through 75, about the impact that their father had on their life. And essentially what I learned is that dads shift women at the core. Dads impact the way women grow up to see men, money, and themselves. So when fathers are absent, neglectful, inconsistent, or abusive, they can shift the way women relate to men. And I thought that was profound. Whether or not dad shows up to your ballet recitals at age 5 doesn't mean you have to spend the rest of your life with men who are inconsistent or remind you of him. So there was the science behind it, that women are downloading this unworthiness. And then there's also like this more spiritual woo-woo aspect of it, that like there's a little girl inside of us who is trying to reconcile this very painful relationship. So she's attracted to and attracting men who remind her of dad so she can solve it this time. Trying to figure out how to get him not to hit me this time, trying to figure out how to love him so much that he is healed this time. We see the replay over and over and over again. Dad was an addict, so I'm attracted to addicts. I'm trying to save, heal, teach, help men because they're attempting to earn their worthiness within the relationship. It's like me on my own is not good enough, so I am attracted to men who I have to earn love from. So when I give and give and give, then I feel worthy enough to be in the relationship. See, look at all I did for you. I'm obviously worthy to be loved now. But that sets up the relationship to be unbalanced. It's a recipe for resentment. He didn't ask to be helped, so he's not particularly grateful.
Right.
And we're avoiding ourselves and our own pain. Usually it's a sign that we have a lot of work to do when we are projecting out onto men that they are the project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of like I didn't get what I needed as a child, as a teenager, as a little girl from my dad. Or my mom, even I think I've seen it also with women who saw what their moms endured. Yes. And so they are drawn to men who are very similar to their dad. So in a sense, they're kind of recreating that relationship, doing what maybe their mom could not do, or they weren't empowered enough to do. So now that I'm more empowered as an adult woman, then I can maybe then change him to be the dad that I needed back then. So they're recreating this relationship. But the problem is that you can't because it's not the same relationship.
Right.
Right.
Right. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on that space is when we're first arriving in relationship, we're first getting comfortable and getting to know this person. Women with father wounds in particular have to be very careful about that initial sensation of chemistry. Like, I can't describe it. I just like him so much. That is generally a huge red flag for women with father wounds. If you are entering into a relationship, you're getting on the dating scene, you're on the Bumble app. If you feel really drawn to this person, date one, and you don't really know very much about their character, it's usually a huge red flag, because we're drawn to what's familiar to us. Underline, highlight, circle, family within familiar. If dad is not somebody that we wanted to be repeating in our lives, we need to be very careful about that initial sensation of chemistry. To be willing to dissect and inspect that. Why am I attracted? What do I really know about this person?
So you're talking about like that love at first sight, one thing led to another, goo goo gaga, yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so infatuated, he's yes. so hot, all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
So how do we decipher though? How do we discern between there's just this genuine good chemistry and, oh my gosh, I'm drawn to what's familiar and this is unhealthy? Because sometimes it's a healthy attraction. How do you know the difference between the two?
So the initial sensation of chemistry, we have to be willing to dissect and ask ourselves, why am I attracted to this person? What do I really know about them and what do I like about them? If you feel butterflies and you like this guy, fine. I'm happy for you. That's wonderful. Let's be willing to look at why. Where's his character? Where's his work ethic? What are his friends like? Has he displayed for you a deep and abiding respect for women? Most, not all, men are not capable of loving you so much more than they love the women in their lives. Mom, grandma, aunts, sisters, if he's talking about them in negative and derogatory ways, please run. Respect for Oprah isn't real. We all respect Oprah. She's amazing. And if he's talking to you about his cousin's girlfriend, like you've never heard somebody talk about another woman before,
red flag.
Red flag.
Right.
Huge banner in the sky. Yeah.
Okay. You also, when we spoken earlier, you also talked about love bombing. What's that?
Love bombing and the kinds of men who end up becoming abusers, narcissists, addicts, and generally abusive men often engage in love bombing. It happens early in the beginning. It's flowers and concerts, and you're having so much fun. You're off on adventures together, and he's telling you everything that you've ever wanted to hear, but it's too early. He doesn't know you to be saying all of those things. The gifts are, kind of intoxicating and wonderful, but what are they based on? So love bombing, you can tell you're being love bombed when it doesn't exactly make sense. The behavior is too big and too loving, too many text messages for how early it is in the relationship. And you end up on this pedestal where your personality has about 6 inches wide to move front, back, and to the left and to the right before you come tumbling down off that pedestal when your real personality or identity is revealed. So that's something really to look out for in the beginning. Narcissists, addicts, and abusers can be really fun dates.
They sweep you off your feet, and it's like amazing.
Yes. Right. But there's this little alarm system in the back of your head that goes, this is based on what exactly? My external appearance, because I have a huge personality underneath this external appearance. So what about me are you so in love with? That was my experience being in a violent relationship, was I was swept off my feet. He was adoring and charming and so much fun, and it was flowers at work and soup being delivered to my apartment when I was sick, and it was so much so soon. And I didn't realize that I was being put up on a pedestal, and what he actually was in love with was the idea of me that he had created, and I hadn't co-signed on that image that he built.
So it kind of sounds like grooming behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lots of women experience that. but the good with him is so good. I can't imagine a better good than when he's being kind to me, and the bottom with him is the worst bottom I've ever known. Those kinds of extremes.
The highs and lows. Yeah. Okay.
Healthy relationships have, a middle ground where they exist kind of at in that equilibrium. It's calm.
So say more about that. Say more about the healthy relationships. Like, so then what does a healthy relationship look like when you're first meeting someone and they're courting you and doing things? How does that compare to the love bombing and the narcissist abusers, addicts?
Sure. So in the beginning, in a healthy relationship, you're getting to know each other. You're asking questions. There's a level of comfort, but we're also acknowledging that actually I don't know you yet. So let's engage in that space to be willing to ask questions about the things we really need to know about, like what I was discussing a bit earlier, understanding what his work ethic is. He needs to be able to express ability to commit to his own growth process, his job. If you're meeting somebody who can't seem to hold down a job, that isn't a stable person.
Right.
If he can't articulate to you some kind of podcasts, books, therapy, a commitment to his own growth process, he's not going to be able to be emotionally available to you because he's not emotionally available to himself. So being willing to ask questions about these things and look for them.
Right.
In the relationship, there should be clues. When you get into the car, where are his, if you're a religious person looking for that value match for yourself, where are his prayer beads? Where's the Bible verse on his wall? Where are evidence of the character that you're looking for in his life? It should be around.
Right. And we talked about that earlier too, before we got on, is that talking about values matching and why that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that important in a relationship? I mean, people say, well, opposites attract, and, we complement each other and we can educate each other on different things. And why should we match our values?
No. Oh, gosh. Okay. So I have quite a few thoughts on this.
Yeah, I do too.
Right? We how long do you have? We can go on for this one for days. So first, just because somebody is attracted to you or they show up in your life doesn't mean that that's all that is available to you. Culturally, we've sort of been conditioned to be chosen, to be found, that kind of thing. But just because a man shows up for you, or you guys swipe right on Bumble at the same time and you end up on the date, it doesn't mean that that's all you deserve. It doesn't mean that that's all that's available. So releasing the idea that we are just waiting around to be chosen. You can set standards and boundaries surrounding who you date and why, and to be willing to show up to the date knowing this is what I'm looking for. And are you that person who I already know and have in mind? Really important to not be showing up just like, oh, I'll date anybody, and I guess I'll just go because he likes me. I mean, that's what I did. I just went on a date with whoever liked me and I thought was cute. Then before you know it, it's 2 years later and you're in a mess. So to be willing to have standards, like, this isn't enough kindness, this isn't enough presence, this isn't enough emotional availability, I have to go. So why is values matching truly important is because we can't spend our lives in ministry in this relationship. Love is meant to be a refuge and safe haven. The metaphor that I love for love is that it's a garden in which we both plant our dreams. And I trust the other person is watering mine and I'm watering his, and we're in this together. If we do not have the same values, then I'm engaging in ministry where I'm trying to help and engage the other person to value what I value. We're not enough on the same page. So I encourage the women who I work with to pick a top 3 to 5. These are really my non-negotiables. If you are an environmentalist, you can't be with some like hunting SUV gas guzzle driving kind of guy. It isn't going to work.
Right.
So you really get on the same page about, this really lights my fire. I get really excited about these topics, and within the context of my love relationship, I can't be arguing about these things. It won't work for me.
Right.
And setting that standard. This is what I'm really looking for. And I always encourage women to put deep and abiding respect for women that they know on that list. It's got to be there.
Yeah.
Because without it, we end up lost and confused as to why he doesn't value us. But he just doesn't see the value of women, period. And it's not personal.
Right.
So to be willing to find these things out before we get so goo goo gaga.
Mm-hmm. And then it's hard to leave.
Right.
Right.
Do we have a values match? Does he meet these really important standards? And have I gotten clear on what the red flags have been for me in the past so that I know when I have to leave if I do have to leave? To come to the dinner date table with that information for yourself before you end up like me. I was face down in a pile of rocks in front of all of my closest friends because my boyfriend of a year pushed me at a party. And I was so in love. I couldn't have foreseen that moment. And in that mental space. But looking back at it now, there was a wealth of wisdom for me in all of those red flags, that really mean, hurtful, cutting joke that he said about his grandmother, the sensation that I was in trouble, that I had to hide things, the perfectionism surrounding preparing food for him, that I was scared. I remember very specifically standing in the kitchen. I had made myself a piece of toast, and I didn't know where I could eat it without getting in trouble with him, because I would probably get crumbs somewhere. So I didn't know what to do with the toast that I had made. And I remember like looking around, like with my hands shaking, like I don't know where it's safe for me to eat this. Girl, that was a red flag.
Yeah, that is. Definitely.
Yes.
Because like you said, the relationship and the home environment should be a refuge. It's not supposed to be a danger zone. And when it feels that way, then that's something that we're ignoring. And we talked earlier about, and you said that women who engage in these patterns is that they often override their internal guidance system. So they see the red flags, but they either move forward anyway, or they ignore them, or they explain it away, or they justify it. Well, I deserved it, or he was just having a bad day.
Yes,
and so this kind of internal guidance system, we're not paying attention to it enough when we're engaged in those kinds of relationships.
Right. And you know, that's really now further down the line when we're already in an unhealthy relationship. Ideally, we're first sitting down and we've got clarity on values, standards, boundaries, and what the red flags of the past have been, we won't make it to that point.
Right.
But when a woman is not convinced of her worthiness and is, kind of standing near dirty things in order to feel clean, or trying to earn worthiness within dating, she can find herself 7 years in, 2 years into this really uncomfortable relationship. And I think one of the most important things that I learned, if I'm looking back at myself in that abusive relationship, was that compassion for my partner was a red flag for me, because I was able to blanket my compassion across my relationship with my father, that poor thing. If he had known better, he would have done better. He was just a man, and I still loved him, and all of those things. But I wasn't giving voice to a 14-year-old girl who needed her father. And so when we find ourselves blanketing compassion out over whether or not our needs have been met, we're in a danger zone. So are my needs being met is a really important question to just sit with the self. Are my needs being met? Am I safe? Am I comfortable? Am I happy? Can I express myself emotionally without feeling like I'm in trouble? Those kinds of things. But that sensation of compassion for my partner, can we find a space within a relationship where we can say, I love you, I care about you so much, but you have asked me to choose between my self-respect and this relationship, which is difficult to arrive at, right? Like we can find ourselves getting really stuck. So really watching that sensation of, am I making excuses for this person? And am I cleaning up after him? Am I apologizing for him to friends and family for the way he's spoken or was behaving at that party or whatever? Am I cleaning up after him? Huge red flag. And are my needs being met? Do I feel loved and adored and safe? Because for so many of us, it's really clear, like, no, my needs are not being met. I don't feel loved and safe and cared for. I'm scared. I'm apologizing for him. I'm apologizing to my mom for the way he spoke at the Christmas dinner. I am making excuses for him to my friends, making excuses for him about why I'm unavailable, why I'm being isolated, why I can't come to an important family event because he just had a fit of some kind. Those are all huge red flags. We're not meant to be cleaning up after people, apologizing for them while our needs are unmet.
Right, so because we're so busy meeting theirs.
Mm-hmm. We're blanketing compassion across whether or not across our needs being met, we're past a healthy relationship. Compassion isn't meant to cover that.
So Shada, when we spoke earlier, you had mentioned that when a woman's in a domestic violence situation or abusive situation, that she doesn't just leave the first time she decides to leave. How long does it take for a woman to leave an abusive relationship? How many efforts?
Yeah. National average is that it takes 9 times of being physically abused before a woman decides to leave, which stuns me, but also makes so much sense. Because
why is that?
Because the physical abuse usually is kind of like the icing on a cake of emotional abuse, of isolation, many times financial abuse. Women are saying, I would love to leave, but how? I haven't worked in 20 years. He hurt my relationship with my family, and I don't have a place to go from here, that kind of thing. So when women are saying, when the statistics are telling us that women are not leaving until the 9th time, we have to be really willing to ask ourselves, like, what can we do as a culture to help answer that call for women sooner?
Right.
Domestic violence shelters are often overbooked. It's a huge problem here in Hawaii. Culturally, there are 2 shelters here, always overbooked. No availability. It's one of the most common reasons that people call 911. A real issue. And what I'd love to see our culture do in response to this is bring it out into the light. And I'm so grateful that you and I are getting to have this conversation in this public way so that women can hear it is not just you. There are intelligent, beautiful, incredible women who have been hurt by their partners. And how did we get to that place? For me, it was about unworthiness and trying to help heal, teach, coach, save my partner. I am a retired savior, retired the cape. I do not engage in saving men anymore. So when we find ourselves in these patterns, to be willing to look at them. What are the patterns?
Right.
How? Yeah.
So, we're looking at, looked at what is a healthy partner, what are the red flags, what narcissists and abusers and addicts do in the beginning with love bombing, looking at values matching. So then kind of wrapping it all up then, how does a woman get free and then stay free?
Yeah.
Because it takes 9 times because of the isolation, the financial distress. She's isolated. She's feels unworthy. I mean, it takes a lot to make that step because you don't even feel like you can do it, or maybe you can't do it in some ways because you just feel like I have nothing. I have no identity. I have no career. I have no savings account. I have no friends. My family doesn't like me because I don't follow through with them. And so then they finally say, okay, I'm brave enough. I'm good. I'm courageous enough. This is enough. I deserve more. How do they make that step to get free and then actually stay there so they don't go back to what's familiar?
Okay, so first things first is being willing to take responsibility for your role in your relationships. I am the common denominator in these relationships. So what do these men have in common? To be willing to look at it, pull up the last 3 men and get really clear on the pattern. What were those red flags in the past to release attachment and emotion and all of those sticky things that keep us stuck.
Yeah.
So really get clear on what were my patterns. If I was in my right mind right then, if I was in the business of honoring myself and taking care of myself, and I believed that I was worthy of love that was safe and felt good, in that moment I would have gotten my bag, put it on my right shoulder, and flipped my hair over my left and gone. And if we can't yet ascribe to ourselves that worthiness, for many women it suddenly becomes so clear. All we have to do is envision the best friend. All we have to do is envision our daughter. And then suddenly it's like, hell no. I would get out of there. Suddenly we can get it. If we're not ready to value ourselves, just imagine your best friend's telling you that story of when he took the drink out of your hand and threw it on the floor and called you a name. Just envision. Kristen's giving you a call and saying, hey, I'm really scared because he snatched my drink out of my hand and I wasn't even doing anything and I feel terrified. How are you responding to her? To be willing to shift the roles until you're ready to see yourself in that way. For many women, it gets really clear with the daughter. You're just envisioning even an imaginary daughter, what you would want for her. She's telling you the story of the way he behaved last night, of the way he treated you at Christmas dinner, grabbed your arm and spoke to you so gruffly and you felt scared. No. She's like, if suddenly we put our daughter in that scenario and we're racing to the airport to go get her and yelling at him and telling him that he doesn't ever get to see our daughter again. And we suddenly have such clear cut boundaries for other women that we love. So
very true.
To do that, if we have to, if we're not ready to embody our own worthiness yet, just imagine your best friend or your daughter's telling you the story of this relationship, getting clarity on that. So when we're looking at the last 3 relationships of our lives and we're breaking down what were the red flags before, what were the patterns, what do these men have in common, if we're getting lost again in the, I think I just still love him too much, and I think maybe that might have been my fault, and blah, blah, blah. Stop. Envision your baby girl is calling you and telling you the story of that relationship. Then suddenly it's like instant clarity. Nope, that's unhealthy. Right. No way.
Because you would respond very differently in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And we get it.
Yeah.
We get it.
Right.
So to be willing to do that over the course of those relationships, and then empower yourself with that knowledge going forward, with that wisdom. This is who I have been. This has been my pattern, and I refuse to repeat it again. So these are my red flags. Telling off-color jokes about women, really bizarre, inappropriate kind of physical things like a grab or trying to scare me. The sensation that I feel like I'm in trouble, and literally write it down. Get it in black and white so you can see it. So there's something to hold on to when you're ready to engage in the next relationship. You're ready to fall in love again. And you've got this in front of you. These are my red flags. I refuse to repeat this. And to be willing to vocalize it. So many of women don't have language for when their boundaries have been crossed, for when they've been hurt, for when they see the red flag, to give yourself the language in advance. If he tells an off-color joke about women that makes me feel uncomfortable, I will say, that's not funny to me. And I highly doubt that your mother would think that's funny, or whatever you want to say. But that you refuse to go blazing past red flags anymore. And that you will let people know, that was a red flag for me. I will not tolerate that again. To give yourself boundary language in advance. Real relationships have boundaries. Real relationships have the word no in them. And I do not consent, and I don't like that, and I don't want to do that. Give yourself your power back.
Right.
And if your voice has been lost, to give yourself your voice in advance.
So writing it down, articulating it, seeing your good friend, your daughter kind of in that situation, how you would respond, writing it down, and then kind of drawing the line in the sand. What will I no longer tolerate? What is the boundary that's been crossed?
Right.
Okay, so then I can move forward to getting free. Then how do I stay there? Because many women, like you said in the research, they go back 9 times before they leave. So then how do they stay free? How do they stay there?
So keeping that guide handy, first and foremost, to stay clear on what have been those red flags that I'm refusing to repeat. What are they? And if someone is continuing to hurt you repeatedly, you are now making a choice. And to really acknowledge your role in this scenario, that you are now choosing to stay with someone who is repeatedly hurting you, and that's not your calling on this earth. Real love doesn't hurt like that. I also really want to get clear about physical abuse. I absolutely believe in a zero tolerance policy on physical abuse. That at no time, at no point, will anyone ever put their hands on me physically violently again, and me stay. Deal breaker. Deal breaker.
Yeah.
Whether we are 3 dates in or 30 years and 4 kids, I will get my things, because you've asked me to choose between my self-respect and the relationship, and I can't move forward now because I'm no longer willing to let someone compromise my ability to look at myself in the mirror. So how do we stay empowered? We take full responsibility for our own empowerment, for our own mental health, for our own happiness. When I was getting married, I asked so many women, how did you stay married? How did you do it? You guys are 35 years in. One of my favorites of all time is old Jamaican woman, and she was like, my happiness is my responsibility. If I was waiting on him to make me happy, I'd be waiting a long time. To be willing to take responsibility for your happiness, pursuing your own self-development, your own growth. So many of us are out there Googling on his behalf and trying to connect him to resources that'll help him grow. What about you, sis?
Right.
What about you? Are you happy? Are you comfortable? Are you growing? Are you engaged in becoming a better woman than you were yesterday? Because that's my holy responsibility, is to show up to this relationship as the best Sade I can be. That's my job. It's not my job to help him be the best man that he can be. And I think
the key thing too is with a healthy relationship is, and I've been married 20 years now, and my husband and I, we're best friends. We adore each other. We have very similar values with many things, from movies to our faith.
Love that.
And
I love that.
Yes, it's awesome. And I think that a big thing is that we help each other grow. So if there's an area where I'm deficient in, or not meeting the mark, or that I'm struggling in, he helps to help me meet that need. And then it's reciprocated. So another time when he's struggling with something, then I help him with that area. And so I think that's key in a healthy relationship, is that you're not always going to get it right every time. But the key is that you should be helping each other. You're your help meet, and be able to balance each other out, so that you're not just struggling out there by yourself, because that's not what it's about. So that you're helping each other get to that goal, and that when one is weak, the other can be strong, and vice versa. And I think that's really key in a healthy relationship.
Yes, super clutch, super clutch. And you are responsive to his help and his guidance in those areas, and he is responsive to you. So that, I think one of the things I see as a major red flag in abusive relationships is that you are trying to help, guide, coach, lead this person, and they are not responsive. You are sending articles and making book suggestions and, suggesting he could try the yoga class, and he's not responsive.
Right. Because you're the problem and they're fine. Right.
Yes.
Right.
So, in healthy love, I think one of the quotes I really love about that is that we can hold up a mirror for our partner to see themselves in. And it's not our job to do the correcting for them, but to hold that mirror and be like, can you see yourself in our love? Can you see yourself in the way that you're treating me? And are you happy with the reflection of who you've been in this space? And for many women, that answer is that they are very proud of themselves and the way that they've been behaving in the relationship. But he's really not taking any cues. That's not a healthy partnership.
Okay.
That's people. I think my overarching phrase for domestic violence month is to keep charity work out of your love life. Just stop doing that, please. Keep ministry out of your love life. I'm not saying all men are dogs, but just come along with me on the metaphor, okay?
Okay.
If picking a boyfriend is like going to go get a new fun young pup at the pound, there's, like the sweet Labrador who's going to adore us and be kind to us and be so much fun. And then we just walk right past him, and then we see the abused pit mix who isn't available for adoption, and we're like, who doesn't love a good challenge? People try to tell us, I don't know about him. It looks like he has a history of destroying furniture and women's hearts. Like, maybe we should not do that.
But we can train him.
But we can train him. But we can help him, nurse him back to blah, blah, blah. That's fine if you can acknowledge that that's ministry in your life and that's what you want to do. You want to help minister men back to health. Do that in your spare time. call up the church and say, you know what I really want to do is I want to help men who are abusers find their way back to health and happiness and wholeness. Fine. But that's not your love life.
Right.
Engage in that ministry all you want and keep charity work out of your love life, please, for the love of heaven.
Right. You're not a social worker in the relationship.
You're not the social worker in the relationship.
Well, I saw Truth Coach write, a man will change for the woman that he wants.
Disagree.
Okay. What do you think about that?
A man will change for the woman that he wants. That's... what do I really want to say about that? Lasting change is inspired within the self for the self. We one day look in the mirror and say, I can no longer go on this way. And I think when people try to change for the sake of another, that it's a recipe for resentment.
Because it has to come from an internal place of motivation. Got it.
That I'm really sick of doing life this way, and I want to be a better person, a better man.
Yeah. Awesome. This is awesome.
Internal awakening is not our job to help them arrive at.
Right. It has to be something that comes from inside of them, and that is a mutual process when it does occur too.
Yes.
One of the things that you have on your website too, kind of as we wrap up, is what we tolerate will grow.
Yes.
Yes. And so that's the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
What we allow will continue. What we skate past and make excuses for will begin to flourish. Our no is really powerful. I dare I say our no is more powerful than our yes.
Yeah.
I say, no, this is not enough. This is not enough love. This is not enough kindness. This is not enough support. This is not enough. And it becomes a boundary. But a boundary, by definition, implies that there's something worthy of protection on the other side, right? So we really have to believe, know, trust that I am worthy of love that feels good. You have, since the day you were born, been worthy of love that is safe and healthy and unconditional. You have done nothing over the course of your life to undo that worthiness. Anything in you right now that doesn't believe that is a result of trauma or pain that needs to be addressed. And until you address that and can look in the mirror and know that, like you know the sky is blue and you know the color of your eyes, I'm worthy of love that is safe. I am worthy of love that is kind. I am worthy of love that makes space for me and my personality. I refuse to engage in healing, coaching, teaching men anymore until you can say those things and look in the mirror and know them like they are fact. We have no business dating. We're not ready. We're not ready. And to be willing to bow out until we can show up, queen that we are, looking for and knowing what her king looks like, talks like, acts like. And a primary differentiator is that your king would rather put the man who put his hands on you in the ground than ever do it himself. Exactly. Real kings protect their queens. They don't put them in the emergency room. Ever.
Right. Okay. Great. Any last words of wisdom?
I love you all. You are all so lovable, and I'm so happy we got to share this conversation, breaking up some of that stigma surrounding domestic violence. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That's his shame to carry, not yours. That's usually a first reaction for women, is to feel ashamed that they've gotten themselves in this position, that he did this to me and he wouldn't have done it to someone else, or he wouldn't have done it if I hadn't blank, blank, and blank. None of that is true. Release the shame. Shame is a lie. And it always has been. That's
Nice.
truly his shame to carry for hurting you in that way. Nothing to do with you. Everything to do with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Sade, how can people get in touch with you, whether they're listening to the live or the recording? How can they get in touch with you if they want to get your services if they're ready to have that breakthrough and actually heal?
Yeah, I'd love to chat with you all. I'm at Shade.Ashani on Instagram, and my website is www.shadeashani.com. That's ShadeAshani.
Okay, great. Any last questions for you guys? If you have any questions directly, you can either send me a message, send Sade a message, and I'll be happy to forward it to her if that's something that you send to me. And thanks for tuning in. And I thank you so much for your time and spending this hour with me talking about this very important topic. And for the rest of the month, guys, I'll be talking about some other issues related to all the different awareness issues. So tomorrow morning, I'll be talking to Dana. She's a PA on SIDS. As well as talking about some classroom management strategies in the afternoon, which is a little bonus one that we're doing in the afternoon. So, awesome. And then stay tuned for the rest of the month for all the other things that we have going on. So thank you again, Sade. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lockhart. It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for everyone who showed up. We enjoyed this time together.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye.